Feasting of Lent, which I correlate with the letting go and receiving. And in case you weren't here last time, Unity has a booklet for Lent, and you can get it free. I think if you're here, you might have gotten an email. At any rate, there's a link in the email where you can go click on it, and then you can get your own copy in an Acrobat PDF form. However, if you're not one of those who likes that sort of thing, you might be able to talk Ken out of one of his copies, or he can help you find your way to the soft copy. So this is the Lent fasting, and I'm just going to say one thing first before we move on, because again, I correlate it to letting go and receiving. And there's a beautiful Zen saying I'd like to read to you.
So do you.
I had no idea how much I was carrying until I let it go. So we're letting it go. Now, recently, Lent started on Wednesday, for those of you who follow that sort of thing. I hadn't really followed it much until Unity. And so I'm just going to go over a couple of things I'd like to add to what they had in the booklet. Wednesday, I guess, was the start, and it was fasting from judging others. Talk about really getting into it, huh? Starting right out with a bang. No wishy-washy wading into the waters of Lent in 2019. No judging of others, so no lumping folks into categories like beanbags or slackers. And what about judging? I like this example. Hey, what was that bleeping bleep call? Are we judging, or are we judging the umpire or his call? The man or his behavior? So let's let me remind you again of something I've brought up a few times, and that's discernment, which I consider a combination of wisdom and intuition. So what I'm going to just say here a little bit about, it's good to have discernment, and there is a difference between discernment and judgment. And you'll know in your gut which one you're doing, and me too. I see we have no slackers here, huh? Just kidding. No, you guys are great. Okay. So we're striving to understand other people and situations. And that demonstrates compassion. When we're discerning, we're demonstrating compassion. We're striving to understand others. That's what's happening there. Yet we are fasting from judging others. And then the next day, it says, I feast on beholding the Christ in them. So at one, we're letting go of judging others, and then the other, we're accepting and receiving and feasting on beholding the Christ in others. So what do they mean by that? Christ in others? Do they mean that these people have inherited the eye color or the shape of the nose or the way that they stand? Is that what we're beholding in others? No, not exactly. It's way, way better. All of us inherit the Christ light. We differentiate between Jesus Christ the man and the Christ light. Jesus Christ walked this earth in an earthly form, an earthly human form. And he opened our eyes to the Christ light. He lived the Christ light. The Christ light is the divine within all of us, the face of God. Our inheritance is the Christ light. Actually, we're born with it. We're born with the Christ light. We're living and breathing it throughout our lives, into our transitions and beyond. There's no beginning or end to the Christ light. And as we do, as do the others are also, all these others walking around, that we're not judging are walking around with Christ light. I'm going to stop here for a minute, because it may seem like I maybe knew about this Christ light business for a long time. But I want to tell you that that's not necessarily the case. Who among you, besides Kay and Virginia and Myrtle, were born into Unity? Me neither. I was baptized Lutheran as a baby. Later, as a child, I was hauled off to Protestant churches, other Protestant churches. And those people in the Midwest, right, Tammy? People in Missouri, Kansas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kentucky, we all think that we are the buckle of the Bible Belt. And really, the buckle, I say, is quite big. It's a big buckle. In one church, I was encouraged to confess my sins every week. Things like losing my library book, which I later found. At 8 years old, I made every week, does it seem like, I might have an exaggerated memory here, but I would walk that long trek of shame up the aisle or down the aisle to the minister, to kneel in front of him and ask for forgiveness and to be saved by Jesus. And another church presented my young mind with an absolute awful conundrum. They said that everyone would go to hell if they weren't saved by Jesus. And so I said, at the young age, I said, what about the children? And them too, they told me. I said, well, even the little Jewish kids or the kids from China? And they said, yes. I said, what about the Aboriginal kids? They never even heard of Jesus. All of them was the answer. Well, as you can imagine, I tilted, and especially as a child, because children are very impressionable. They're very literal. They take things quite literally. And I have to confess that I was more than a little suspicious of Jesus and Christianity after that. And I began my journey as a student on my own spiritual path. Eventually, I came across this little chapel in Tucson called United Fellowship Chapel, and that's where I learned about the Christ light, also known as the Christ consciousness. I first learned about the concept, and then later I began to learn more and more of the reality of it. Again, and I say like to say we, but it says, I feast on beholding the Christ light in them. And that was the saying, the affirmation for that day. Now here it is suggested that we feast on recognizing, acknowledging, and honoring the Christ light in another. Have you ever been in a really, really dark room and someone opens the door or turns on a light or turns on their phone or strikes a match? In some way, even a tiny little sliver of light can hurt our eyes. When we feast by beholding the Christ in others, well, even if we can't see any light in them, or if there's just a tiny, tiny little spark, you betcha. You betcha. The more we look at another, often the more we see of the Christ light within. Then on Friday, I fast from emphasis on differences. That's what Fridays was. It just so happens I recently was watching a PBS show. You may have seen it. I actually didn't finish it because it was pretty dark. I call it a Scandinavian because I can't remember if it's Swedish or Norwegian or whatever, okay? Apologize, but that's how it goes. And so that's what I say. They were speaking, I think maybe in both Swedish and Norwegian, and they had subtitles. Thank God for that. And they were different. These people were different. Where they lived was different. It was cold. Where they ate was different. How they talked obviously was different. Thanks for the subtitles. But they were the same. They were the same. They had churches. Even in the show, they had churches. They had spouses. They had children. They had the same issues with family, friends, and work. They had fast food, fancy food, art museums, and traffic. So, yeah, they were different, but they were the same. They were the same, see? There's a 12-step program saying that warns against comparing our insides to other people's outsides. When we dwell less on differences, we see less of them. especially when we ourselves are centered in the oneness of the world. And that's what it was for yesterday. I feast on the oneness of all life. Have you ever studied creation stories of other cultures? If you have, you notice that there's a lot of similarities, many similarities, loads. My first introduction to another creation story was many years ago. I read a book called Daughters of Copper Woman. It was a book about a Native American creation story, among other things, about through the eyes of the Cree, a Native American tribe of the Northwest. Now, if you've recently seen the movie Captain Marvel, this is not the same Cree. This Cree is spelled C-R-E-E, and they're Native Americans from the Northwest. And also, have you ever noticed that during the time when autumn slides into winter, there are all these holidays, the holy days. It seems like everybody has holy days at the same time. There's sameness. We have commonness. We feast on the oneness of all life. Now I'd like to take us to the micro view. Let's take a micro view of our immediate commonalities. I recognize and feast on the oneness of life. Think of these as commonalities. Where we live, where we're from, and what we know. My friend Pam, she's from the west side of Chicago. Now if you knew about Chicago, or if you're from Chicago, you would know these things. You would know that Czech Plaza, that's the place to go with mountainous plates of dumplings and krauts. And you'd also know, if you were from the west side, about Klaus's, a restaurant where there's a line around the block on Sundays after church. And around here, we know, it gets windy this time of year, am I right? We survived Friday. And what it means to order something Christmas style, right? We have common Las Cruces oneness. And from a macro view, we are earth dwellers. We share the air, we share our skies, our love for each other and others. We share the planet and much more. We are the snowflakes of the snow. We are the oneness of all life, and we feast on the openness, or the oneness of all life. Then on Sundays, this is the thing about unity in Lent, and I don't know about other churches because I didn't grow up with Lent in my life, but apparently Sundays we get to relax. And so if you have your booklet, you'll notice there's no affirmation for Sunday, but there's a poem by this woman who's a unity woman. She's an author. Her name is Martha Smock, and if you're old-time unity, you'll know who I'm talking about. Or even young-time unity. And I'm going to share this. It's called God is, You Are. God is love. You are one with love. Love fills your heart and blesses your life. God is power. You are one with power. Overcoming power, the power to do and be is yours. God is peace. You are one with peace. Nothing can disturb or upset you. You are calm and serene. God is strength. You have strength of body, mind, and emotions, strength of soul. God is life. You are one with life. You feel the life of God flowing through you, a mighty healing, cleansing, renewing stream. God is substance. You are one with substance. From God comes a continuous outpouring of plenty for every need. God is light. You are one with light. Light shines in and through you. You see your way clearly. God is wisdom. You are one with wisdom. Your mind is illumined. You know what to do and you do it. God is good. You are one with God. You are one with all good. So God is and we are love, power, peace, strength, life, substance, light, wisdom, and good. Now, I wasn't going to move forward after that with the booklet, but I had to say I looked ahead. I snuck a peek. And Monday, and here's my pointer, the lint roller. So Monday was apparent darkness, and I thought, oh, I can't let them go into Monday without having a little something to say. So here I am telling you a little something what I think about this. I fast from apparent darkness. That means we're letting go of mistaken thoughts in the face of the illusion of darkness. We deny the illusion to transmute our associated emotions and thoughts. This day suggested fast is not an order to dwell on apparent darkness, but to recognize the illusion, the unreality of it. So it's okay. And then the next day, I feast on the reality of life. Reality of light. Yay. We create our own Lent rhythm. We breathe in, we breathe out. The tide goes out, the tide goes in. Tide out, fasting. Tide in, feasting. Low tide, I don't have to tell Daniel and Jane about this. Low tide, the best time to beachcomb, to find shells and sea glass, and just to observe and study the life in the tide pools. Look at him. He's doing that. He's looking at these tide pools. The rhythm of fasting, the letting go, of sprucing, and making ready. Everyone remembers Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to work we go. It was happy, it was enthusiastic. And I have to say, that we can consider our autonomic systems and processes in our bodies. They're doing their thing. And as I say in our meditations, down to the cellular level, happy and enthusiastically, they're doing their work. Happy and enthusiastically. We don't have to think about it. Feel a little twinge, say, hey, thank you for being so happy to fix that up. Huh? The twinge and the spleen, remember from a couple weeks ago, was a harsh judgment of ourselves or others. So, bye-bye. We make room and we make ready for our feasts, happily and enthusiastically. And we make room for quiet time, the time of going within to receive. And keep a true Lent. There's a book by Charles Fillmore that we've talked about a couple of times. He writes, in this inner realm, this place where we're quiet, in this inner realm, you will find the spiritual ethers heavily charged with ideas that turn to spiritual substance. I'm going to read that again. In this inner realm, you will find the spiritual ethers heavily charged with ideas that turn to spiritual substance. What a powerful statement. And it conjures happy abundance upon which we may receive our feast. We may find our rhythm, our happy dance, in letting go and receiving abundance. It's a rhythm, and it can be happy and enthusiastic, just like us, okay? The feast of an abundant life. Abundance means a life filled with happiness, health, good health, plenty, and all the time we need or want to enjoy it all. The energy of our abundance radiates out to increase the abundance of the whole world. And when we share our feast with this, and then we share our feasts with this world we share. We point our noses toward and focus living our daily lives to the fullest on a daily basis. So every day. We let go, but we don't focus on that which we're let go. I don't picture the weight I'm losing. I focus on, I picture my healthy form. You see the difference? Let go, then focus on that which we now will feast upon. Focus on what we want to attract. Live our days as if we're already receiving, as if our desires and dreams are already our realities. We live life to the fullest, happily and enthusiastically. I'd like to close my talk today with a quote by Abraham Hicks. The greatest gift you can ever give another person is your own happiness. So let's prepare for meditation. Thank you. Yes. Breathe out. As we take in our deep breath, we breathe in that light, that universal, loving, healing light. The healing light. And we let go of discomfort as we breathe out. We breathe in healing and happiness, joy, flexibility. And we breathe out tension, worry. We have our own rhythm. We breathe in the highest and best, and we breathe out, letting go of all that which does not belong to us. And we breathe in the light of God, the healing, beautiful energy that is now settling around our feet, relaxing us, healing us, moving into our ankles, and into our calves and shins, into our knees. We affirm our flexibility as we move forward and up into our hips, and we affirm the balance and our abilities to move forward in life. This healing energy, this loving light, now settling in the bases of our spines. Let it grow. Let it grow. And let it move now into our lower abdomens, where to the very cellular level, our bodies are working happily and enthusiastically to do their jobs, to do their work. Even as we move into our upper abdomen, continuing the same thing from tips of toes to top of head, to the cellular level, happily and enthusiastically, healing, working, playing, dancing. Feel this love, this healing love, the energy settle into our hearts and our chest area, growing and growing, and into our shoulders, where we release and let go of all that which does not belong to us. We let go of the burdens. We breathe in the flexibility. We breathe in our ability and our confidence, and we breathe out responsibilities that do not belong to us, and we relax. We relax. The waves of relaxation moving through the muscles of our shoulders and into our necks, relaxing and healing, into our faces and into our jaws, relaxing, washing over our faces and around our scalps, to the tops of our heads. And radiating out from us, this light, the Christ light, the light of the universe, God's light, moving into this room, from us to the people next to us, and next to them, until this entire building is filled with this light, that we can see it radiating, emanating out into the world, around this planet, touching every need, healing every hurt, bringing peace, bringing love, bringing clarity, understanding, and compassion to this entire planet. It's a beautiful thing to see, to feel and sense this healing light. Feel it now from the tips of your toes to the tops of your heads and in your hands and your feet again. You know where you are. You know where you're sitting or you're standing. And we give thanks for this love, this healing, and this light. Thank you, Mother, Father, God. And so it is. Amen.